Hi everyone, welcome back to the next diecast. In today's video, I'll be showing you and reviewing this 1/18 scale Ferrari Monza SP1 made by Bburago/Maisto. Now I'm saying Bburago/Maisto because this model is in fact made by both brands. Maisto and Bburago are under the same kind of brand umbrella, which is the Mei Chiang group. And a lot of times you can find these 1/18 scale models from both brands for sale at wholesale clubs such as Sam's Club, which is where I got mine from, for $17 in total. And my parents later ended up giving it to me for my birthday. Costco as well as BJ's. And when these Bburago and Maisto models are sold at these wholesale clubs, they all are sold in Maisto branded boxes. And a lot of times if the model in the Maisto box is made by Bburago, it will still have the Bburago logo on the base. But in some cases, like in the case of this Monza right here, the Maisto logo is on the base instead of the Bburago logo. And I found that to be kind of odd because the only time I've seen this occurrence is on a select few Ferrari models that are made by Bburago but are also sold as Maisto models in Maisto boxes. So that's kind of confusing, but Bburago is the original brand that released and made this particular model. But if you do find it online in a Maisto box, or if you go to a wholesale club and find this model there, it will also be in a Maisto box and it will have the Maisto brand logo on the base. But Bburago is in fact the manufacturer of this model. It's just sold as a Maisto model in certain markets. And again, that makes it kind of confusing because if a Bburago model is sold in a Maisto box at a wholesale club, 9 times out of 10, their brand logo will still be on the base of the model instead of the Maisto logo. But the few exceptions that are out there include this Ferrari Monza right here, and I believe the SF90 Spider and Coupe. And I'm wondering now if the new 296 GTB is also a case where it's a Bburago model, but they put the Maisto logo on the base. And the other Bburago models that are currently sold at wholesale clubs include the Lamborghini Sian and the Bugatti Bolide, as well as the Chiron. And they all retain the Bburago brand logo. But for these few Ferraris that are sold in Maisto boxes at wholesale clubs, the Bburago logo is replaced with the Maisto logo. So that's kind of a long explanation, I guess, but it's worth kind of saying to kind of alleviate confusion that surrounds this model. But Bburago first introduced this model in 2020, about a year and a half after the real car was introduced in late 2018. The Monza series was composed of the SP1, which is the one-seater version, which is what this model is, and the SP2, which has 2 seats. 499 units of both versions were produced between 2019 and 2022. And this just happens to be the same color scheme that the original launch version was painted in when it was first unveiled, I believe, in 2018 or so. But Bburago has been making this model since 2020, and it currently comes in this color scheme that you see here, which is the amazing looking metallic gray finish with the yellow stripe and the yellow bump, I guess we'll call it, behind the headrest. And Bburago also makes a higher end, or a slightly higher end version under their signature series. And that comes in red with kind of the same color seat and interior. But that one does have a red, white, and green stripe going down the length of the car. And that one's going to have better detailing in general than the regular version here, which is sold under the Race and Play series, or sold under the Maisto Special Edition series if you do get it from a wholesale club. But Bburago, I think, did a great job with the overall detailing of this model, and I think it really holds up well with other recent releases from them that are equally well detailed for the price that you get it at. There are some flaws here and there, but for the most part, I think the model is well done, and I'll kind of get into those few flaws as I go throughout the video here. So in terms of details, we'll go ahead and start at the front of the model here. Bburago, I think, did a really amazing job capturing the overall look and shape of this car. This car really does look amazing and timeless. I think it's definitely going to be set to become a future Ferrari classic. A lot of those lower production Ferraris that we've seen from the past 30 or so years have already kind of become that way. The F50 is one example of that for sure. But this car is kind of a modern-looking version of classic Ferrari racing vehicles from the 1950s. The 250 Testarossa is one example of that. But Bburago really nailed the overall look and shape of this car, I would say, for sure. In the front here, the headlights are quite well done. They are the correct overall look and shape that you would see on the real vehicle, and there are no pegs to be seen. I think the pegs are kind of hidden, kind of tucked away in those top corners, but you really cannot see them. And the headlights do fit nice and flush with the body as well. You will see this nicely done lower grille down here as well, with kind of that three-dimensional look to the Ferrari badge there. It's not a separately cast plastic piece, but it certainly looks like one. And the grille is nicely done as well. This mesh is not perforated, of course, but Bburago, I think, still did a good job of kind of making it look like it is perforated. Then you have kind of that nice carbon fiber texture down here on the lower portion of the front end as well. You do have that Ferrari badge on the hood there, which looks very well done. It's kind of on the small side, but the real Ferrari badge on the Monza series, I think, was kind of that small compared to the rest of the car. The paint quality, I would say, is excellent. The metallic gray finish looks fantastic on the model, and it really does, I think, look just great on this car in general. And then you do have the glossy finish for the yellow stripe that you see here and here as well, but the paint finish is excellent. Nice and smooth throughout, no rough regions that I can see as far as my version here goes. And the signature version that comes in red, I think, also has amazing paint quality. Maybe a little bit higher quality, but you really can't get that much higher than this. I think for a model, and you can find the model usually between $40 and $50 online if you get it from outside a wholesale club. At wholesale clubs, you'll find it for between $17 and $20. But I think for even the $50 price mark, the paint is fantastic. Further down the side, we'll take a look at these wheels here. Bburago, I think, did an excellent job with these kind of classic-looking 5-spoke wheels that you see here as well. The brake disc does move with the wheel and through the caliper, which is very nice to say. And the calipers are done in kind of a glossy yellow finish that you would see on some versions of the real Monza series vehicles. And there is a small Ferrari inscription on each of the calipers as well. Very well done. You have suspension, which is interesting to say, but I think that since both Bburago and Maisto sell the model, they probably put suspension on there for that reason, because Bburago models most times do not have suspension, but all Maisto models do. But the one very Bburago-esque feature of this model, even though it's sold both as a Bburago and a Maisto model, is that the steering is really not that great. Bburago has had this issue for years where, although their models have steering, the wheels just don't stay. Like, you can turn them and they'll just kind of snap back straight. It does work, as you can see here, with the steering wheel moving, but it does not really work all that well. But that being said, at least the wheels themselves are nice and sturdy, and at least as far as the fine details of the wheels go, Bburago did an excellent job with them for sure. You have the nice Ferrari badge embossed on either side of this clamshell hood here. It's not a three-dimensional badge, but it does look very well done. These side mirrors are very sturdy, which is great to see. There is kind of a very slight difference in paint finish between the mirrors and the metal portions of the car, but the mirrors are made of plastic, so that's not really a surprise. There should be a rear view mirror mounted, I think, right about here if this were the real vehicle, but Bburago chose to kind of skip putting that detail there. But I don't think that's a big deal that Bburago skipped out on that detail, because the car does look quite nice without that on there, even though it's not necessarily accurate, I guess, to the real car, but not a big deal. Back here, you do have the Ferrari Monza SP1 inscription, which looks very nice, and it's kind of the same metallic gray finish that the primary body paint is on the model, but that looks very well done. Back here, you will see the Ferrari inscription done in silver. It does kind of blend in a slight bit to the metallic gray paint, but it does look good nonetheless. And then you have the Ferrari badge under there as well. Now, the taillights on the real car are kind of this single unit that you see right here. And Bburago does make it look clear instead of red, like you would see on the real vehicle. And you do have these lower lights down here. Bburago just chose to paint them on instead of putting them on as separately cast on plastic pieces. It does look a slight bit cheap, but I don't think that's a big deal. They could have just skipped out entirely on those particular details of the model, but they chose to at least put them on there in the form of a paint. So they look okay. And back here, you will see the exhaust pipes as well. They look decently done. They're kind of trimmed off in silver paint, as you see here. And there is a nice carbon fiber texture going on back here as well. Now, in terms of opening features of the model, you do have the opening rear trunk, which does open up like so. You have to kind of use your finger now, like that. Not too much to see back here. The SP1's trunk was not really meant to hold a whole lot, as you can see here. And most of the surrounding texture is made of carbon fiber on the real car. And Bburago does capture the carbon fiber texture quite well with this kind of plastic that they use surrounding the trunk area. You don't really have any texture going on in the actual trunk pan, but there is a different texture from the carbon fiber. I'm not sure if on the real Monzas, if the trunk is carpeted or if it's just, you know, a hard like plastic material, but Bburago does capture the overall look and shape of this trunk area well on the model. And the underside of the rear trunk lid is fully painted, which is nice to see as well. You do have kind of these thick dogleg hinges back here, but I don't think that's a big deal because Bburago and Maisto do tend to use dogleg hinges for the opening fixtures of their models, but not a big deal. And then you also have this very large opening hood up here. You have to kind of grab it from both sides like this and then lift forward. And the cool thing is that you have these plastic rods in the front here that do hold the hood up in place when you open it up like so. And then they will release to close the hood when you kind of push the hood with some light pressure up here. I'll kind of show that once I close up this portion here. But the engine detailing on the model is pretty decently done. Bburago and Maisto don't usually include a whole lot of details in the engines of their models compared to the older models that they've made in past years. But Bburago, I think, did a great job as far as the engine of the Monza model goes here. You have a few different textures going on. You have kind of the carbon fiber texture above the wheel arches and with these various components up here. The main block is nicely done in kind of red and silver like you would see on the real vehicle. And there actually is a Ferrari inscription on either side. It's gonna be kind of hard to see with this zoom here, but you get the idea. There are some wires and stuff kind of molded in down here. This is primarily just one single plastic piece. I think a little bit more detailing would have been welcome in terms of maybe some coloring and whatnot, but I think as far as a budget model engine goes, they did a good job in here, I would say, for sure. And the signature version of the model, I think, has a slight bit more detail as far as the engine goes, but not a whole lot compared to the regular version that we see here. And to close the hood, you just have to kind of push it slightly like this, and you hear that kind of click, and then you're going to have a second click, because the hood does actually click back into place. So if you were to hold the model upside down, the hood would not flip open, which is a nice touch there, I would say. And of course, you do have the opening door on the model as well, which does open up like this. You have to kind of pull it upward and then out a slight bit, and then just keep pulling, and it will open up like that. And the model does look cool up on the shelf when you have the door up or open, I guess, like that. It just looks very cool. The interior, of course, only has one seat, so there really is not a whole lot going on in here to begin with, but what little there is in the interior, Bburago, I think, does capture quite well. As you can see, Bburago does do a great job with the fine detailing of the interior portion of the car. All the buttons are painted on and labeled, which is very cool to see. And the steering wheel has a nice overall look and texture to it as well. And you can even see some of the steering wheel buttons painted on there too. You do have the gauge cluster back here, which is kind of hard to see. And then you do have the Ferrari inscription and logo kind of on these two screens back there, I guess you can call them. The door panel is nicely detailed as well. You just kind of have that basic carbon fiber texture that you would see on the real vehicle. The floor does have a nice texture to it as well. And then you have a carbon fiber texture on the side next to the seat, which looks very well done. And speaking of the seat, Bburago did a great job with the detailing of the seat. It does have a nice overall look, shape, and texture to it. I wish they put maybe some Ferrari inscriptions or logos on this harness here, But I think the signature version does have those extra details. But I think it would have been nice if they included those details on the regular version as well. But that's pretty much it as far as the interior of the model goes. And the fine detailing that you see with the various buttons in here, I think, is done a little bit further with the signature version, but not by a whole lot. So we'll go ahead and close up the door here. As far as the undercarriage goes, there really is nothing to see. It's all kind of flat like you would see on the real vehicle. If you're a fan of Ferrari models or are looking to add a model of the Monza SP1 to your collection for a cheaper price, I would say that the Bburago/Maisto version is a great choice. There are some flaws here and there, but when you compare this release to their other recent releases, it does hold up quite well, and I would say is even slightly better in terms of overall detailing and build quality as well. So once more, this model is sold both as a Bburago model and as a Maisto model, but there really are no differences between the two, except if you look at the base and see the Bburago logo or the Maisto logo. If you can find this for the $17 price at a wholesale club, I think it is an absolute steal. But if you get it for kind of the regular retail price, which is between $40 and $55, depending on where you get it from, I think the model is still a great model to get. I definitely wouldn't pay much more than like $55 or $60 for the model, because then you're getting kind of into upper end like model price territory. But I think in general, if you can find the model for a good price, it would definitely look good in any collection of Ferrari models or of supercar models in general. So feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on the model here, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.